everyone. Welcome to the Set Point Podcast, the channel that talks about volleyball, leadership, team building, and much more. My name is Cesar Benacci, and I'm here with my brother, Peter Bristocchi. How are you, brother?
What up, Cesar? Hello, everyone. Once again, ready to take notes, eyes and ears open. Let's talk volleyball and much more.
Right. And today we have a super special guest, a person that she lives in my heart. She is a really good friend that we created a really strong connection these last few years. And she is one of the most competent people I know. So with no further ado, welcome to our show, Carolina Garbato, the world famous Gabby. Gabby, welcome. Thank you for giving us this great opportunity to talk to you.
Love it. Thank you. Thank you guys for having me. I'm excited.
Awesome. So, talking a little bit about Gabby, well, her name is Carolina, but everybody calls her Gabby. And we're going to get into that in a minute. But Gabby today she holds the position of director of the Beach National Team Development Program, which I am honored to be a part of. And she is also a coach. She's a doctor. Did you know that, Peter, that she's a doctor?
I did not.
She's a PhD. She has a PhD. Yeah, we're going to talk about that.
So a true doctor is among us.
True doctor, yeah, she's a true doctor. So Gabby, welcome to our show, and talk a little bit about how was your beginning in volleyball. So since the early days back in Brazil, where you played volleyball, how did this beautiful sport came into your life?
Sure. That's a really good question. And it's a very interesting one because I feel like sometimes like some things that happen in your life, they just kind of leave a mark. And the day that I fell in love with volleyball was certainly one of those. So I was one of those kids that just wanted to play every sport, and my mom would like dress me with like a skirt or a dress. And then she would find me like on the soccer field at the country club and be like, what are you doing? And, my sandals are off. And so that was just the day that I was playing soccer, futsal with all of the boys that were much older than me. I was 8 years old. And I was like in my little dress, and the volleyball coach came up to me and she's like, hey, have you ever thought about doing volleyball? And I was like, no, but I am interested. And she goes, well, we have practice tonight if you want to come on by. And I was like, absolutely. So, had to deliver the news to my parents that, hey, guess what? I'm not coming home with everyone, and just made everyone stay late. And I went to practice. And I just remember like diving for a ball, not knowing how to dive. And I got the ball up and it went all the way across and it landed in. And I think that's the moment that I like fell in love with volleyball. I was like, this is amazing. The fact that I could save a ball, have never played a sport, and just got very active after that, started going to practices weekly. I was still playing soccer. I hadn't stopped. And I was also playing handball, not the Brazilian, but the Olympic handball. Mm-hmm. And playing tennis, swimming, doing capoeira, just a little bit of everything, very little of schooling, because that was not interesting to me, unlike my brother and sister. And then, like both of you guys are from Brazil. So in Brazil, if you play for a club, you ended up getting scholarships, you go to a private school, and so on and so forth. So from 6th grade on, I had scholarships for handball or volleyball, and I was always choosing volleyball. So kind of stopped playing all the other sports by the time I was 13, 14, and I was doing volleyball, went to play at São Caetano, spent a couple of years there. And then I went to Americana, which, kind of made me move away from my family at the age of 15. Mom and dad were completely against it. And I think that was just a part of the journey. It made me grow up a lot faster because I was living with other athletes that were like on the professional team, and I was just probably a freshman in high school. And but you know, it was like if they didn't let me do it, I would have done it anyways. I was gonna like run away from home and go do that because that was my passion. It was, I don't know if it's fortunately or unfortunately, but volleyball was much of my identity. So it's like if you take that away, you kind of lose who Gabby is, who Carol at that time, you know, who I was as a person. And so from there, I came back, play at Hebraica, and then I went to Bauru. And in Bauru is when I say my story really developed because it could have gone one way or another. So in Bauru, now I'm 5 hours away from home. I'm a bit older. I'm a senior in high school, and they bring me in. They're like, "Hey, you're playing on our, you know, age group." And but Bauru also had a professional team. And so the professionals like watch me play, the coaches, they're like, "Hey, we want to bring you up." Well, we're talking about 2004. There's no like online schooling or anything like that. So without mom and dad's knowledge, I dropped out of high school and I just pursue a career with volleyball. And I was happy, but at the same time, I was 17 years old and everybody else on the team was above 26, 27. So they had their lives pretty much figured out. They were playing pro volleyball. And one day my parents went to visit, and I remember, well, take it back a little, but Bauru said, we'll put you in an online school. And we're like, what is an online school, right? Like cell phones barely existed at that time and point. So I was not going to school. I dropped out of school. And I remember during my parents' visit, they left and I felt guilty. Like I'm lying to my parents. I'm not going to school. And I called my mom and dad that day and I told them the truth. I was like, I'm not going to school. And they're like, what? And I told them this is why. And you know, Bauru is like paying me to play professionally on the professional team. And I said, but I'm not feeling good about it because I'm much younger than everybody else on the team. And I feel like I want to graduate high school. And my dad's like, I'm turning around, I'm coming to get you. And I said, no, I've been doing this on my own. Let me finish this. Let me do this my way. Let me go and have a conversation with my coach. I'm not a quitter. So I didn't want to be seen or looked at as a quitter. I just wanted to finish high school. And after going to private schooling my entire life, I had to go back to São Paulo to finish high school. And I went to a public school in the evenings. So kind of like to get a GED essentially, because it was the only school that would take the credits, the little credits that I had. And that was a make it or break it for me because I was like, what am I going to do with my life? I lost my identity, which was volleyball for the past 12 years. And I was not playing volleyball for 6 months and I was like, I don't know what to do. So I don't remember what the question was, but we went all the way from 8 years old until senior in high school.
No, yeah, and that's the right timing because after that you came to the United States to play volleyball. How was that? How was this process and that transition? What kind of impact had on you?
Yeah. So that's a good timing to stop because it's during that time that I'm lost and I don't know what I'm gonna do. And a friend of mine had reached out and she's like, hey, I'm playing volleyball in the US. And for me, as a 17-year-old, I'm either gonna go pro in Sao Paulo or I'm gonna go to college. And mom and dad, my dad in particular, really wanted me to be a doctor, like my brother. My brother was in med school, and he's like, I want you to go do that. And I was like, I don't like that. I don't like school. I don't know if you've noticed, but not really my thing. And but because there was the opportunity of playing volleyball, and just so you guys know, I did not speak English at all. No, not one word. I couldn't even say my name is. And so I went and took the SAT a couple times, and was talking like to an agent to try and get me to college here, but not really knowing what I was going to do. And then the last time I was taking the SAT was the first year they started requiring essays at the SAT. So imagine me not speaking English, not reading, being able to write, trying to write an essay in English in the middle of Morumbi in Brazil, as I was taking the SAT. And it just turns out that the kid next to me, his name is Edu. We started talking. He's sitting right next to me. Everything is by assignment. And he asked me a question. I was like, oh, yeah, I'm trying to go play volleyball. And he says, well, my sister's a volleyball coach there at a college, and she's actually in Brazil recruiting right now. And I was like, oh, no way. And we talked a little bit more after the SAT. And the sister was actually the assistant coach at Oral Roberts, where I played. And she said to me, she's like, oh, do you have any footage? Again, guys, we're going back to over 20 years ago. Like, footage was not as easy as it is today. And so I called my coaches from Americana. I drove there over the weekend with my family and recorded some matches of me playing. And then my dad and I went and dropped it off at her house before she left back to the US. Now I'm not thinking anything of it. I was like, she's never gonna call me back, whatever. I don't know if I'm good enough anymore. And ORU is very good. They had just finished, like, they were Sweet 16, Elite 8 a couple of years before. So they were solid. They had a really good team.
Oh, wow.
And so long story short, she called maybe 10 times. And we had a lady that worked at our house that was illiterate. She was very nice, but she didn't know how to, take notes or write down that somebody called for you. And she finally got a hold of me, and she's like, I've been trying to get a hold of you for the past however many months. And she's like, we really want you. We need a libero. And are you still interested? And I was like, sure. And she's like, but your SAT score sucks. She said, you have to do something about that. And I said, well, I can try and take it again. And she's like, yeah, but you have to reach at least this score. And I did. I was conditionally admitted into ORU, and off to the US I came with, in my mind, I was going to play for 4 years, get a college degree, everything was paid for, go back to Brazil and play beach professionally. That's what I wanted to do. But as you can tell, that's not what happened.
That's quite the story, huh? So, Gabby, let me circle back a little bit. When you were at that moment, you said you were 17, you got pulled up to play with the pro players, and you were in that predicament, right? So I'm going pro, but I'm much younger. And so while you were saying that and telling that story, um, I had another view in my mind that perhaps that could be helpful for the players that are in that time on their lives, and they're 16, 17 years old, maybe here in the U.S. And we know how many hundreds of thousands of players we have in the country, and the percentage of players that keep on playing at the collegiate level,
Yeah.
it drops significantly.
Yeah.
And so, um, can you tell us a little bit, how was that, that fight in your head, like the hustle, and what were the things that were going on in your mind? Um,
Yeah. Yeah, looking back now, it's so clear, right? Because you've matured and everything that your parents were saying made sense now, but they didn't make sense then. So I think the fight that I was going in my head is I didn't know what was next. It was very difficult for me to see a future without that. And but that was not true. And I think it was, if I had been able to maybe just take a step back, listen to the people that were around me, that cared for me, that really had my best at heart, and because their advice was, this is not the end. Like, if you don't do this now, it doesn't mean you cannot ever do this or like pursue this path. Like, I was on my way to pro already, so why couldn't I just wait another 8 months, finish high school, and then go ahead and do that? um, so the battle in my head was very difficult, but I think if I was to give like any piece of advice for someone who's going through the same thing right now, or they've been through that, is listen to the people that are around you, that care about you, in particular your family and loved ones. Because frequent times, like during that time, my coaches, they wanted me to play, right? For them, the most beneficial that I could be at the time being for them was me playing.
Right.
But for my future and looking beyond, I needed to get an education. And their battle might not be going to high school or not going to high school. It could be something very different than what I'm going through. But I think that's something that I would really like, if I had a kid, if I have a kid one day, that's something that I'm going to really try and communicate with them, that, you know, we have your best at heart. And this is why. Maybe be able to share some of that story.
That's great advice. Some of our friends that are coming over here on Set Point Podcast, they tell their incredible stories, and oftentimes we go back into mental health and all those struggles that
Mhm.
oftentimes go unnoticed, or sometimes it may be even taboo, and thank God more and more people are talking about it. And it's so great that you could share that a little bit. It's so important, especially teenagers going into adulthood, and that's such a defining moment of their lives. But there's always ways, or there are always ways that you can, if this path doesn't work, that's not the end of the world, even though it may look like it is,
Yeah.
right? And so thank you for sharing that. But now let's go back to, you came to the US, you played here. What were the main factors that, or the main reasons, better said, that helped you deciding to come over to the US? In other words, what made you go for it?
Sure. Me, myself, just the fact that I could play volleyball. For my family, during the time being, the fact that I could get an education. And that was important to me as well. It's not like education was not important, but again, I was so narrow-minded and just had that tunnel vision on one goal, and that's the ultimate goal, that it was hard to see anything else around me. Like,
Right.
I stopped playing because I had too many injuries, and education was what I fell back on and was able to pursue the rest of my life on. So certainly the fact that I could play volleyball and get an education and be a little more prepared for my future
Mhm.
was what set me off and said, go ahead and
Right.
do this, and then we'll figure out what's next after.
That's such a great, two great pillars to make you decide, right? Keep on playing the sport that you love and
Yeah,
get an education out with that.
sure.
That's awesome. And how was that beginning here as a student athlete?
Hard. It was it was super hard. I mean, I mentioned I was conditionally admitted, so that means I was in some courses that would really decide my future. If I did not pass, if I couldn't understand, if I could not move on from English 099, which is before 100. It's like 100 is the basics of the starting point. Then I was not going to be able to move on and continue to play. And I was really enjoying playing. Our team was really good. We had Brazilians, Croatians, Americans, a Croatian coach and a Brazilian coach and American coach. So we had a really good team and we had fun. So that was a motivation to kind of make sure that I was getting everything done on the back end that I needed to continue to do that.
It was quite the UN team, right?
Yeah.
People from all over. Yeah, I bet that was a very rich experience, like a culture pot in the team, and
100%. Yes, it was a great experience.
that's awesome. And then how did you, start coaching? How was that?
Yeah. So I mentioned that I wanted to go and play. So that was always the goal. Um, during my, I think during my end of my junior year to my senior year of college, I started taking school seriously. And I love when people tell me that I cannot do something because that makes me want to do something just to prove a point, right? And due to all of the background I had previously shared, to become a teacher, you have to go through certification processes and pass state tests, federal tests, so on and so forth. And the advice I got from everyone academically at ORU was to get a recreation degree, which there's nothing wrong with that, but it was not what I wanted to do. I wanted to teach and I wanted to coach. And because I had those injuries, 2 knee surgeries, tore all the ligaments on my elbow, my body was not necessarily where I would want it to be to pursue a pro career in Brazil. And so you start thinking about what's next in life. And next was to get a job. And I thought to myself, I could get a job a little bit easier if I had an education degree because I could get a teaching job. And so as soon as everyone told me go for recreation, I said, I'm going to go for education. And so they said, and I went through all the hoops that I needed to, and, took the tests. It took a little bit longer because I had to student teach for a semester, which I've learned so much during both of my student teaching experiences, and met one of my biggest mentors in life, who was a student teacher, who was the teacher that I was student teaching with, and was able to learn so much and start taking other parts of life seriously. And now I wanted to give back. I wanted to give back everything that I had been through, that I had gone through, the experiences that I had gone through. I wanted to be able to share those with other people, even though some people have experiences that are much, much better than mine. I feel like mine is unique in a way that I can maybe connect with people in a way that others cannot. I've always had to fight so hard for everything that I've ever had. So I've never had anything handed to me. And I wanted to help my students and my athletes. And so after that, I spent 1 year doing my OPT, and I went back to ORU and got my master's, and just had some different goals in life. And then I started coaching at Broken Arrow. So I was a teacher and a coach in Broken Arrow High School in Oklahoma. And Yeah, I coached club and I coached high school, and I had a blast, met some more amazing coaches, amazing people. And that's how I started to, build my foundation as a professional and as a coach, and learn so much about myself as well. All the things that I did not know that I thought that I knew, and some things that I did know and I wanted to share with others.
That's awesome. And so when you were coaching,
Mhm.
did you have anybody that you looked up to, like great coaches that inspire you or people from other areas? Because when we're just starting our coaching career, right, we look up and say, oh, I want to do that like that coach. I do not want to do that like that coach. Did you have any figures that inspired you or no?
Yeah, I I think I had people that inspired me, but I think everybody inspired me in some kind of way. It's weird to
I
say,
love
but
that. I love that.
I the high school coach that I first coached with, she was the head coach, I was the assistant coach, and I was fortunate enough that she let me lead JV and be a varsity assistant. And she was a high school coach for 20 years already. And I wanted to learn everything that I possibly could from her. Whether or not I agreed with was a different story, but there was that respect, and there was that I'm going to learn from you and I'm going to take that and make the best out of it. So, yeah, I certainly had like people that I looked up to that were great coaches, but I mostly had experiences with people that I worked with directly, and they became a big part of the process. And they're still a big part of the process. And I can still look back and reflect on something that I learned from Kari Smith at Broken Arrow, as she was the head coach and I was the assistant coach. Um, and so on and so forth. And I tried to do that with every single person I came in contact with. Like one of the football coaches at Broken Arrow, he was a huge mentor at the time. Steve Spavital. He was outstanding, and I was able to go in and sit down and talk about my athletes and my students, and just utilize him as a mentor and as somebody who had been there, done that. And they were mentors at the time, and they remain mentors because they were a part of my foundation as a professional.
That's so great. That's so great. Wow, what a story, huh? And so very inspiring, very inspiring. And then at some point, you become a part of USA Volleyball. How did this opportunity happen?
Yeah. So there's one more step along the way. So from ORU master's degree and being a JV assistant coach and a club coach, club director in Oklahoma, I really wanted a college job. And again, I did not care where I started. I just wanted to start somewhere. And so I started looking, because that was, for me, that was the next step. That was my next goal. And there was a tiny school in the middle of nowhere, Kansas, called Southwestern College, town of 13,000, college,
It's a
600
village.
people. Yes, exactly. And I applied for a job with them. And the year before I got there, they were 0-34.
Wow.
And I thought, how inspiring. If I can't come
That's
here
quite
and
a
make this
challenge.
place
If I win
better.
one game, I'm 100% better already.
That's quite the challenge.
Yeah. And so, but I was hired so late. I was hired like in July, and season started in August.
Wow.
And I had a team that was like half formed, that had just lost the coach, had not won any matches the previous year. And what an experience was that for I feel like everything that's ever happened to me in my life was always preparing me for the next step. And that was certainly one of those. And there were days that I'm like, whoa, how do we do this? Like recruiting here is super tough because middle of nowhere, tuition is expensive. It's a liberal arts college. Once you get there, you fall in love with it. But if you don't know he exists, there's so many other options that why would you go there? And so I really dove into the recruiting world and hiring good assistant coaches, which when you hear it, you're like, oh, you had so many assistants. No, I had one GA that I was able to then, replace every 2 years or whatever. And we built that program from the ground up. Had some amazing student athletes. And I think for me, that's when it was way beyond volleyball. It got very real. Those student athletes, they were away from home. They were at a place where it was unknown to them. And you had to build a culture, but you also had to care for them as people and realize that at the end of the day, you were just such a small part of their journey, but you had such an influential opportunity to make their lives better for the future. And I don't know that I realized that before because it's different when you're coaching high school. But when you feel like all of those people's lives are in your hands and you have to help them grow and get better, and you have to teach them that, if they see themselves as plants, they have to be watered. So every so often, even if that means somebody else is going to come in and water you because you're unable to water yourself. And I don't think I've ever said that before in my life, but I just got inspired by your plants behind you. And I'm not great with plants. Okay. But that was so influential in like me becoming like more of a leader and more of a coach and being able to help those athletes to see what was next in their lives. I had one student athlete she had a baby, so she was a mom. So her
Wow.
reality was so different than everybody else's reality. And I had to adjust and adapt to that and also make sure that my team had a really good understanding of why we were adjusting and adapting and how they could handle those situations. So spent 5 years there. I don't like to leave anything worse or the same as it was. So we certainly couldn't go 0-34 before I left. We had to at least win one match. But by the time we left, I think that my last season, we had the best season like in college history, and we won 23 matches, maybe lost 7 or 8. And I felt like it was a really good time to move on to something else and go.
That's a little improvement.
I think it was a little
Small,
improvement.
small,
Yeah.
small.
Yeah,
Just like your
two-
English. Yeah, your English got a little bit better than
just a little bit better.
knowing
And
zero.
the academic degrees too got a little better too.
Oh yeah, that's a good point. That's where I started my doctorate. And like, oh, everybody would look at me and be like, what are you doing? Like, do you not like to have any time off in your life? And I was like, well, I coach here. I was also a professor there. And I was like, why not start a doctoral degree? And so that's where I started, and I finished 6 years later. It was from Southwestern College. Yeah, that was quite the journey too. But thanks for reminding me of that.
So let's hold on. Let's rewind this.
Yeah.
So what is your undergrad degree on?
Science in health and physical education.
Okay, and then your master's,
School administration.
and then your PhD, your doctorate.
Higher education leadership.
So now, what would Dr. Garbato say to little Carol that did not like school a few years ago?
I'm gonna say in Portuguese, o mundo dá voltas. Yeah, I think it's the world around us. It keeps spinning, and you can't get stuck. You can't get stuck in a time where that was your reality. That's what I would tell myself, is just keep evolving and keep being open to new opportunities, and whatever is in front of you, you just got to look at that and say, is this something that I want to tackle? And if so, what's the plan? How am I going to get there? You know? And nothing is impossible. And so don't let anybody stop you from like achieving your goals. I think in life you can be an energy consumer or a contributor. And I prefer to contribute because I don't like when the energy is sucked out of the air. And so I think that's the advice I would give myself. Just keep contributing to other people's lives and to your own life, and eventually things will work out.
Right. This might be a rhetorical question now,
Yeah.
but everybody wants me to ask this. I've received several messages from our audience right now.
Oh, yeah.
And everybody wants to know, did you end up turning into a nerd, like a bookworm? Or because nobody turns and gets a PhD and at least stays the same as they were before.
I don't like to use the word perfectionist because
Okay.
I don't feel like it's a good word, honestly, and I don't want to be a perfectionist.
But it might have a good side. It might have the good side of it.
Maybe, but I do think, to answer your question, I think I became a little obsessed with being the best that I could be. And being the best that I could be, if I ever got an A minus, I would lose it because my GPA would drop.
Right.
And so, what do I need to do to get an A in all of these courses, all the way from master's through doctorate? Because for me, for some reason, the most important thing was to see my GPA, and I wanted that GPA to be good. And it was not to compare to anything or anyone. I think it was more to prove to myself that I could do it. All the times that people said, you can't do it, oh, but I can. So, no, I don't think I'm a nerd by any means. I think I just like to, every time I feel like I'm not getting better at something, I take on a new challenge. And I'm sure we're going to get there, but I feel like that might be one of the reasons why I was like, oh, let me go coach at El Camino. Like, I don't have anything else going on in my life. Let me just add another job.
Yeah, right.
But it's just like,
I'm pretty sure your wife was very happy with that.
yeah,
Like,
I'm sure everybody was happy. Like, yes, you have so much free time.
But don't tell that story yet. We're gonna.
I will not. I will not. But I feel that's what it was for me. It was just like that next level, and just pushing myself to be the best that I could be at everything that I was doing.
That was a very humble way to say that, yes, I am a lifelong learner and I just want to get better. And it was a very polite way to say that, yes, I am a nerd, but very humble. So inspiring.
I don't know that I'm a nerd.
It's
still.
very,
I think I'm a lifelong
in a good way.
learner,
In a good way. I mean, not in a not in a deprecating way. Just like the good side of it. So that was very inspiring.
Lifelong learner is the new nerd. We like that. We like that.
Yes.
But USA Volleyball, Gabi. So USA Volleyball came into your life in a moment that you need a new challenge, like you said. So how did this opportunity came about?
Yeah. Like I said, I think the things in Kansas, they were good, but for me personally, I don't know that I could see myself just fulfilling all of my goals where I was. So I wanted to finish the graduating class that I had and really prep for the new coach. And then a job opened up at USA Volleyball and I applied, but I think I was applying for other jobs. So it wasn't necessarily, and I didn't even know what the job was. At that time we had 38,000 coordinators under high performance, and it was a high performance coordinator. I had not finished my doctorate yet, and I applied for it, forgot I applied for it. And one day I'm in Kansas and I get a text message from Erin Virtue, which, is another one of my mentors. And she's like, hey, you applied for this job and do you have time to chat? And I was like, absolutely. So let's get on a call. And then we got on a call, chatted, interviewed for the position, ended up getting the position. Then I moved to Colorado. So I started as a coordinator of high performance at USA Volleyball in 2019.
Mhm. And then eventually the program, the high performance program, became the national team development program,
That is correct.
right?
Yeah.
So Erin, who was the assistant coach for the women's main professional team,
Mhm.
Olympic champion, very good coach, and she was the head of this program that became the national team development program.
That is
So
correct.
yeah, so how is this transition? How is the beginning of this development program with this new name? What changed in the structure, and what was the goal at first?
Yeah. Yeah. So the NTDP, I think I feel so fortunate that I was able to be there for the beginning of it, for the birth of it and the development of the program. I spent very little time in high performance because it was during COVID and we quickly transitioned. So COVID was actually good for us because we were like, whatever we're doing now is not working.
Mhm.
And some things were working, of course, but I think the main issue we had in high performance was the lack of consistency. So if you want to be a part of the national team, an age group national team, you have to try out. Then if you try out in Minnesota, your tryout scores could be like a 3 out of 5 across the board. And if you tried out someplace else, like let's say in Hawaii, maybe you got a 5 out of 5, the exact same athlete. So it was inconsistent with the coaching because we always got volunteers. We weren't necessarily training them what a national scale looked like for those athletes. So it's not anybody's fault. It was just like lack of personnel to put in those places that had a national ability to identify talent. And with that, we began our transition and Peter Vent came on board. So Peter Vent is my boss. He is our chief of sport. And with Peter at the helm of things, and Peter is, gosh, he's certainly a mentor. He's the best boss I've ever had. But he started challenging us to how can we get better? What is it that we can do? And so it was like Peter and Virtue and all of us coordinators, as I mentioned before. And so we started really diving a little bit deeper into what the issue was and what we wanted to become about. So we met with lots of NGBs, we met with lots of other countries, we met with lots of other sports, and we wanted to see what like high performance look like outside of USA Volleyball. What did it look like for Premier League soccer? What did it look like for lacrosse? What did it look like for so many other sports? And with that, we were very data focused. We were collecting the data, we were meeting with the groups, and we started formulating a plan to what became the National Team Development Program. During that time, I remember that beach was not something that everyone was so passionate about that was already on the team. So it was almost like not necessarily a stepchild, but because everybody's background was an indoor, beach was kind of like always a second thought. And with that, I was like, I got this. Let me go run with this side of things. Let me go, rebuild relationships with people that, we've burned bridges with or that are unhappy with us. And I started really focusing and diving into the beach side of things. But the National Team Development Program was developed for beach, indoor, and sitting, and it was all developed at the same time. So essentially, we created a scouting network, and we're like, okay, so if one of the issues was potentially paying people to identify talent or, how to identify talent, what if we take some of the best college coaches who are identifying talent as part of their job, and we teach them on how to identify talent at a national level. And we began having conversations. So Aaron Virtue was leading the indoor side of things. I was leading the beach side of things, having conversations with people I've never met before and trying to get them to trust me and have those conversations with me and have a relationship with me. And so I called a lot of them, explained what we were about, and they're like, yeah, I love it. I love to be a part of the scouting network. And then we built this scouting network and we said, okay, now that we have scouts, what do they scouts do? Well, they submit nominations and we're going to start creating a national scale according to those nominations. And then we needed more differentiators. Like, okay, now that we have nominations, what happens if both Gabby and Cesar have 10 nominations each? What's the differentiator here? And that's when the talent identification was built. And it was also based on research and what other high performers were looking at. And we came across two matrices, so like a triangle. So essentially the triangle looks at, like, let's say that's your pyramid, and at the very top of the pyramid it gets narrow, right? So like that's exactly what happens in our sport. Like you start with 500,000 girls playing indoor volleyball currently, and then you end with 12 Olympians, or a few more than 12, 13 Olympians. So the pyramid gets smaller and smaller. And so we, took that pyramid, we broke it down into pieces, into how to identify. And then we also look into their performance and their potential. So like, let's say if you have a 15-year-old who is a male, let's say it's a male 15-year-old, and he is currently 5'7". We were like, we can't just start this athlete off by giving him a very low score because they haven't even hit puberty yet. Next year when we see them, they might be 6'5". And then we just said no to you and you're out of here, which is kind of like how the tryouts work. Maybe we said no too soon and then they're not coming back. And so that athlete probably had a higher potential because of like where they were in their development stages. And so we've decided that we weren't even going to start our age groups until post-puberty. So we're kind of meeting them at a point where they're not developing at quite such a wide range, and because they've hit puberty. And so we started boys at 16 and we start girls at 15. And the other great thing about the NTDP is that, let's say I attend a program and, like the coaches, I had lots of nominations, coaches ranked me super high, and then I attend the program and I don't perform very well. That doesn't mean you're cut for life, right? You might not be invited to the next one because of your performance on this one. You might be invited to the next one because we want to see you again. But it's a constant and it's revolving. And if Cesar gave me a ranking of somebody like at the bottom of the pyramid, but he sees me again and I've developed, he can give me another ranking and I can see both of those rankings. And you can kind of see of how an athlete developed throughout their process. Like we're just with our staff here, we're redesigning our depth charts because we had some staff transition. And so we're really looking at those talent ID numbers, and it's so fun to see like how an athlete has developed from program to program, how they're being ranked by the scouts, how they're ranked post-program. And we also wanted to see athletes more frequently than they were seeing in high performance. So we started having quarterly camps. So spring, summer, fall, and winter. And we wanted to be not like a locked in kind of thing. Like you're invited to all four, nobody else is going to be invited. It's meant to be very fluid. And the purpose of those camps is to have best with best, best against best. So we're really taking the time to develop them, send them back to their college coach, to their, could be their college coaches, but you know, technically their high school coaches and their club coaches with some feedback from us that they can go back and work on and then come and show us how they've developed. And so that's a little bit how the NTDP was born. And now I would say it's just it's a constant development. You know, if there are things that appear or if there's new data that shows we should be doing something differently, our group is very open-minded to let's try that out, let's learn what it is. You know, I think one of the discoveries we had on the beach side of things was that we were not training enough before we attended an international competition. And so we tried to plug in a few additional training blocks, if that was with one of the quarterly trainings or if that was overseas already, just to make sure that the coaches and the athletes were spending more time together and developing. And so it's a constant improvement of who we are, who we want to be, and what we want to be for the athletes and how we can help them get to the next level.
Very good, very good. And there's a lot of rotation within the coaches as well. So all the training blocks have many coaches participating in that process. And so you are the one who picks the coaches, right? So what values do you look for in a coach to participate?
Yeah, I'll correct you there. I'm certainly not the one who picks the coaches. I think I'm the one who reaches out and makes the offer, but we do have a committee that reviews.
Got it.
So a few of the things that have happened is our demand for coaches is a bit smaller than the number of outstanding coaches that we have, which is a really good problem to have. Mm-hmm. And we have some outstanding coaches, like Cesar is an example. He's being a part of our program. And he will tell you himself, he was probably not invited to every single program that we run. Yep. Because we do like to bring new people in and we want to give them a chance. We also want to bring new coaches in that want to take, you know, like their coaching to the next level, or maybe that could use Cesar as a mentor and be like, hey, you've been here, you've done that, you've coached one of our national teams, one of the USA's national teams. How was that? How's that experience? What can you tell me about it? How can I get there? What were some of the things that you did to get there? And so one important thing we've done for both beach and indoor is we've created a coach application that we review on a quarterly basis to see if we have any additional coaches, any new coaches, anyone who wants to be involved. We try to give coaches that want to be involved an opportunity. Sometimes they will start at an accelerator where they're kind of working under a mentor coach, and then they can progress from an accelerator to working a training series with us. And then there's like one thing that we look for, like as a committee, as an organization, are open-minded people and growth mindset people. So if you come to one of our events, I'm not going to hand you down a curriculum and say, this is how you're going to teach. I am going to tell you some basics the outline of the program, but at the end of the day, I want the coaches to be able to develop that amongst themselves. So it is a collaboration. Every once in a while, we'll have somebody upset because maybe they weren't hired as a head coach. But for me, the goal of the head coach is to get the group organized and make sure that everybody's strengths is being applied throughout the entire camp. So Peter, let's say you come work with us and you're really good at defense. I'm going to be like, hey, will you take this defensive session? And will you plan and organize? And you tell us, assist other coaches, how we can help you to facilitate this session. Okay, let's say Cesar's really good at blocking. We're like, hey, can you make sure that you're running this blocking session? So it's very far removed from where you show up and it's just one person pushing down instruction down your throat. And it's very much so a collaboration amongst the coaches. So if you have you're going to have 4 outstanding coaches in your group, 5, 6, all 5 of them, hopefully will have an opportunity to show the athletes what they're really, really good at. And so those are some of the things that we look for in coaches when we are hiring them, you know, like where are they in their professional careers? How can we help them get better? How can they help our athletes in our athlete development pathway and growth? How are they liked by the athletes? You know, post-program feedback, what was kind of the feedback that the athletes have provided? And then we look at all, and then we have, in addition to the application, we have a survey, a yearly survey that goes out, and essentially the coaches have an opportunity to share with us their availability and their interests. Oh, I want to coach a national team. Cool. We will just have 4 or 5 national teams this year. So we're probably just going to have between 4 to 5 head coaches. And we have 30, 40, 50 people that want that job. So it's like, how do we narrow it down? How do we provide opportunities? It's a tough position to be in. And that's why I was like, yeah, I'm certainly not sitting back and making that decision myself. I think that would be unfair to the process. So we have 5 of us that look at all of that and make sure that everybody's voice is being heard.
That's amazing. And you're a doctor in leadership. So you studied leadership in the most deep way. What kind of leadership values do you apply to the Beach NTDP program as the director, as the leader of the program?
Yeah. I'm a hands-on kind of person. I would never ask anybody to do something that I would not do myself. And I try to translate that to our team here in Torrance. The entire Beach team is here now, which is awesome. So we work together on a daily basis. And I try to translate that into our program as well. So like our job, I feel like as a staff, is to make each one of our programs the best experience that it can be for both the athletes and the coaches, and of course the families. And how can we achieve that? It's a collaboration. So there are lots of meetings ahead of time, lots of voices that are heard. If anybody wants, you know, to adjust something or implement something, and I think all of that kind of starts with organization. So organization and delivery, how we deliver like our objectives is very, very important. And so I think the other thing for me is just communication as well. So I try to tell the team here is that it's not, I'm going to tell you how to do something and you're going to do it exactly that way. If you have pushback, I want to hear that pushback. I want to know, like, we just hired a brand new employee. She's doing an outstanding job. And I was so excited to have her review pretty much everything that we're doing. And I said, you're coming in from an outside perspective and I want to know the uglies. I want to know what it is that you are looking at that you're like, this does not make any sense. Like if you're reading our website, the beach side of things for the first time and something does not make sense, I want to know that because we want to fix that. And sometimes it's hard to fix if you're being in that world for so long.
Mhm.
So that was one of her first assignments. And I'm like, don't be afraid to tell me that, you know, hey, maybe this manual is not as clear as you think it is. Like I'm reading it and I have no idea what it's saying. Like, how can we make it clearer? And asking for feedback from athletes, families, and coaches as well has been important. Within that feedback is when we started applying changes, which was like the coach application, the coach survey form. And you know, I think to be able to be better, you have to be a good listener. So sometimes some of those conversations are hard. You can get some parents that are frustrated and for many different reasons, you know, like um they think their child deserved a shot at something and maybe their child did not get that. And instead of just shutting them down, as hard as it might be, just sitting down and having that conversation to understand where they're coming from and know if we were at fault at any step of the way so we can adjust that for next time. I think it's a really, really, really important thing that we focus on. So I think that's the kind of leadership. It's just it's an open space, a lot of collaboration, and being a good listener, you know, being a good listener so we can make things better.
Yeah, and I've been part of that program for 3 years now, and I can attest that this program has one of the best leaders I've ever worked with. So Gabi, this is my testimonial as one of the coaches of the program that is like high performance, not making any mention to the old program, but high performance as it's strong, the performance at the highest level of leadership that I've ever actually seen. Being a student of leadership myself. Yeah, that's amazing, Gabi. I am so honored to be part of that program and working with you and learning with you every single time. Yeah.
Same here.
Yeah. So Peter, how many hours more could we stay here talking to Gabi about all those things?
Let's go with 3,794.
Oh, I cannot even repeat that number. But now, Gabi, but now, Gabi, we have a really special part of our podcast here that is to get to know you a little bit better, okay? In a personal level. So, guys, get ready because this is pepper time.
Woo!
Let's go. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
All right. So the first question is, tell us an important or defining moment in your life that influenced who you are today.
Dropping out of high school. And then going back and finishing, I think helped shape the remaining of things could have gone really badly. And I've made a decision to not allow that to happen. And so I think that was one of the most important decisions that I've ever made in my life, was to just get out of that situation as quickly as I possibly could.
Wow.
And then later on, she became a doctor.
Right. Isn't that crazy? Can you imagine what could have happened if you hadn't gone back to school? Wow, that's crazy, right? We probably wouldn't be having this conversation today.
Probably would not.
Right?
Absolutely amazing.
Okay, so okay, I got the question today. What? Yeah. So, what is your favorite book, or what are your bedside books, or things that you're reading now? Do you have a favorite book or books?
I do. I go in phases.
Okay.
And I think my most recent phase has been Brené Brown, just the dare to lead and power of vulnerability. I feel like from power of vulnerability, I quote something out of that book to someone on a daily basis, and I feel like it helps them just like it has helped me. And it speaks to me as well to just like understand that it's okay to be vulnerable, because sometimes I think I have a hard time with that.
Wow.
Very good.
That's powerful.
Brené Brown. Brené
Yeah.
Brown.
And vulnerability is a sign of strength, contrary to
Yeah.
what most people think. Yeah, by being vulnerable, you're being actually strong, very strong. That's really cool.
Yeah. And read Brené Brown, guys. That's so good.
That's right.
Yes.
Yeah. Gabi, third question here is about mentors. Who are your mentors?
Yeah. Is there a question about heroes or just mentors?
You can take any direction you want.
Yeah. Gosh, I don't know. I feel like I shared that with you guys earlier, that I take something from everyone that I meet. And I honestly, I can't start that without my mom and dad, because they are, but like in my foundation and building me, they were the ones that, like, the first question was a defining moment. And I feel like if it wasn't for them, there would not have been that defining moment of like, let's go back to school. So I think that's because of them and the kind of parents that they are, and they always were. So definitely the two of them. Then professionally, I would say I mentioned that Peter is the best boss I've ever had. And he really is. Like, the amount that I've developed as a leader, the things that I learned now that I look back and said, hey, if I were to go back to that college coach in Winfield, Kansas right now, there's a list of things that I would do differently, probably better, right? That doesn't mean I wasn't being the best version of myself at the time being, but I feel like right now I'm an even better version of myself, and Peter like plays a huge role in continuing to develop me and challenge me to be that. Aaron Virtue has also been a part of the leadership growth and journey. And most recently, I would say just like working with April on a daily basis. I'm just trying to soak everything up, and I'm like learning so much from her that she's quickly becoming one of my mentors as well. So yeah, I would say the three of them.
That's
Nice.
awesome. I said that I was gonna go back to that part of her life, and I
Yeah.
kind of skipped it. I'm sorry. So Gabi's currently coaching at El Camino College with no less than April Ross. Oh, the legend April Ross. So April, if you're listening to this podcast, we love you, and we are very lucky to have you around, right?
Yeah.
She's amazing.
Yeah,
She is
and
amazing.
if I may quote you, Gabby,
Yeah.
everybody inspires you in some way. So
Yeah.
you said it earlier today. So
That
it's
is
very
correct.
powerful. Very
Yeah.
powerful. Okay, next question.
Yeah.
If you could change one thing in the world of sport, what would it be? And the second part of that question is fill the blank. Sport is?
Yeah. God, change one thing in the world of sport. I think there's so much pressure from so many angles nowadays that the fun is almost gone. Like, from speaking to, other people in the profession, it's those athletes, they have so many commitments that sometimes I'm like, are they even realizing, is this something that they want to pursue? Like, I don't want them to burn out before they get to the fun of it, to the best of it. Like, they're wearing their bodies out. They're doing so much. And how can we be better, like as a nation, to make sure that we are protecting that and we're protecting them to prevent that burnout? And I think that would be like a collective effort amongst everyone involved, from parents to club coaches to high school coaches to NGBs to coaches of other sports that, you know, they might participate in. It's almost like creating an individualized plan for each athlete and like what works well for them to prevent that burnout. I think that could be really good. So almost like looking at the now and how the now can affect the future, and is good. The other thing, working in the world of beach volleyball, is just the lack of boys and men's opportunities. It's so sad. Just the other day, I came across a 6'4" athlete, beach volleyball athlete. He was working, and him and I got to talking, and he had play in one of our events. And in that conversation with him, I'm like, he's really good. Like, I've seen this kid play. He's really good. He has a ton of potential. And I've asked so many questions to myself, like, if we had a beach collegiate program, would he be in college right now? Would he be pursuing that? If we had more of a professional pathway, if we don't have the college pathway for the men, would he be in that? And so, but I can't sit back and complain. I have to be part of the solution. So I have to think about how we as an NGB can continue to provide opportunities for them that are more than just, you know, a weekend long event for them to participate in. So I think that's the one thing that I would give myself the advice to get on it, and let's change it. Let's make it better. And even if the change is small and barely seen, it doesn't mean that it's worthless. So I think we just need to keep pushing until, you know, if you go brick by brick, eventually we'll knock down that wall. So that's the one change that I feel like I can have a part in making it better for our athletes, our male athletes in particular.
Very good. Very
And then
good.
I think there was a second part, right?
Yes, fill the blank. Sport is
Fun. Should be fun.
nice.
It'd be fun. Yeah.
Nice.
Simple.
Like that. Love
Simple
that.
and powerful.
Love
That's,
that.
I love that too. All right, Gabi, what do you regret the most, if you have some regrets?
Nothing. Nothing. And that I don't say this in a bad way. I think I say it in a way that there's so many things in life I wish I didn't do. So many. Like, I could make a list. But if I changed any one of them, I don't know how that would affect who I am today and how that would affect the people around me. And I would not be willing to take a chance to see that. So there are many things that if I were to tell my younger self, I'd be like, don't do that. Don't do, nope, certainly being down that route doesn't work. So many things that I wish I did not do, but I don't regret any of them, because I think it's made me who I am today. And I'm pretty pleased with who I am, and I want to continue to get better.
Nice.
That's great.
Nice. Next question. So let's get that coin and flip it. The other side of the coin, it's about pride. What are you most proud of?
I think I am most proud of the influences I've been able to make on people, in regardless of, like, starting with my own family. Like, I my mom says sometimes that I'm like the little glue that keeps everyone together, and like I'm so far apart. So I'm pretty proud of that. I think that's something that's really good. And because I try to see the good in people, I think when somebody else is trying to see the negative, sometimes I just shine a light that makes them see it in a different way. Also, like going through social media and seeing pictures and videos of former players and where they are now, all the things that they've been through in life, and knowing that, I was a part of their lives, and now I get to continue to see them grow and be successful. Or even when they're not being successful and they're hurting, and maybe they can pick up the phone, give me a call, and be like, hey, can you help me with this? I like to be there for people. So I think, I don't know, just influences might be something that I'm the most proud of.
You definitely are a glue, not just in your family, but in other circles of life too. Yeah. And
Right. Yes.
I'm lucky to be a part of that too. That's great. Yeah.
And it shows. It shows.
Mm.
It
Okay.
shows.
Now, Gabi, now something that nobody knows or very few people know. Fill the blank. Nobody knows that Gabi.
God.
Dun, 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 dun.
I most recently started biking. I have like an electric bike. That's not exciting, but you might see me on a bike around
How come you
California.
never visited me? She is my neighbor. She lives like right
Yeah.
across the avenue here.
It
Just
goes
come
both
visit.
ways, It goes both ways.
But
Do you remember? Do you remember who texted you last week and said, "Hey,
dang
Yeah,
it.
we're
hold
at
on.
Pinellas. You want
Let
to
me get my
join?"
let get my popcorn here.
Yeah.
I don't I have an excuse. I don't have an electrical bike.
But you have a car?
I do, yeah. Dang
Mm.
it. Well, you did invite me to go to the restaurant last week, but I was working.
Yeah.
I couldn't go.
That is a pretty good excuse, I guess.
It is, yeah. I guess, yeah. I guess I could have told John, "Hey, I'm gonna go see Gabi, and I'm not gonna be here for Cal Poly's game." It wouldn't be good, but who knows?
Okay, next question.
Yeah.
Okay, family is
Everything. Everything.
Right on.
yes, right on. Yeah.
Right on. Gabi, uh, do you have some questions for us?
Yeah, I do. I would love to know what made you guys think of starting this podcast, and what has been your biggest learning since you started it.
All right. Do you want to answer this one together, Peter? So the very first and most important reason is to
No, before that,
before why?
we're selfish.
We're selfish.
That's the main reason. We were selfish. Because we want to learn.
We want to learn. Yeah.
We want to
That's
learn.
it.
That was
Yeah.
the foundation of it, right? We want to learn,
Yeah.
and we, like somebody once said, you know, everybody inspires you in some way. I want to say, what I want to repeat what my dad always say: everybody has something to teach you.
Mhm. Yeah.
And so that was the first reason. And then when we were talking about it, it was like why can't we share what we learn or what we will learn from our friends with everybody who wants to learn too? So
Yeah.
let's record it. And
Yeah.
that's how it started. Yeah.
Yeah. And as we go and through this process, at least for myself, I found that learning through this channel here is way more effective than most of the channels that I've ever experienced in my life. So getting that connection with people that participate with us, uh, learning, soaking up all the knowledge that everybody is here to spread. with us and with the people that listen
Yeah,
and watch us is outstanding. It's remarkable. Yeah,
and
it's great.
like how when you're reading a book or you're taking a course, you just, at least for me, you imagine how the author felt like when they were writing it, or what would be their facial expressions when they had that idea, and that language, that body language, even though we're virtually meeting, I can see in your face a lot of, there's so much more information that you can get from, from what you say than if we were only reading what you were saying, you know?
Yeah.
So yeah, that's it. It's been great. It's been awesome. Yeah.
Oh, I love that. Thanks for
Thanks for the
sharing.
question. That's we love
Yeah.
answering this question.
All right, we're about to wrap up. So we're, like we were saying, we're in this project of this podcast for almost a year now, and we count on our guests to help us grow this, and so we ask everybody, and I'm gonna ask you too. Can you nominate or recommend two people to come on here and have a chat like this with us?
Yeah, I can nominate so many people.
All right. So let's start with two, and
We'll
then you
we'll
send
take
over the
home.
list later.
Yeah, I think you guys, if you can get Aaron Virtue, I think that could
Oh, I'd
be so
love to
fun.
talk to Aaron.
Yeah. And then, you know who could be really fun? Dan Friend, the head coach at
Yeah.
Lewis.
Mhm.
I think he could be, I don't know, I always learn so much from him. And you got to ask him questions to keep him going. So I feel like it's yeah, he would be a really good one.
That's nice.
Nice. Very
Very
good.
cool.
Awesome. And now, Gabi, to finish this, leave a message. We have mostly here coaches listen to us, which is our primary audience here and who we want to interact most with. But we also have volleyball players and former players and people who love volleyball. So leave a message to all of those people, please.
Okay. Well, first of all, thanks for listening. We debated this because you have three Brazilians speaking English, and we said it would be so hard to do it in Portuguese. But I think my message is uh, be yourselves always, be considerate of other people, be understanding that everybody might be going through something. So don't make quick judgment out of anyone or anything or even a situation. And always believe in yourself, like set a goal and go after it. I can tell you from experience that it's probably not going to be easy, but don't give up. Just keep at it, ask for help when you need help. And when you achieve that goal, that feeling is going to be a really good feeling. And it's going to make everything that you've gone through worth it. So, yeah.
Wow. Wow. This is awesome. This is very
Amazing.
powerful, straight to the
Amazing.
point, amazing. Well, Gabby, thank you so much for finding some time in your very, very busy schedule to come on here and talk to us and share, your story, share a huge amount of knowledge that you have now, and it was so nice to listen, and I literally could stay here for hours learning from you, and hopefully I'll learn more from you, and I think I can speak for both of us that you are invited to come back and we can talk more about the NTDP program in depth, and what are the goals of of USA Volleyball for volleyball, specifically for beach volleyball, and how can people from where they are help the program grow. Um, so again, thank you. I wish you more success, all only good stuff, great ideas to make the program uh, better. I wish a lot of competent and nice people around you and honest people that can help our sport grow, both indoor, beach, and city, and in any way that they can. And wishing you the very, very best. I did that first today because I know Cesar is going to get emotional. And so I told him I'm going to go first because it's going to be hard to
Okay.
follow him. So
Let
again,
me take a deep breath
yeah.
here.
So again, just to finish while he prepares, thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank
And
you guys.
wishing you again
Thank
all the best.
Gabi, I've been a part of that program that you lead for 3 years now, and I can attest here that it has been one of the most incredible experiences of my life, both in a personal and a professional way. And everybody that I talk in our coaching circle, the beach coaches and some indoor coaches as well, and know you, credit the success of the program to the leadership. And I'm saying the leadership, you and the people that run the NTDP beach volleyball specifically. Okay, so everybody says there's not one beach coach that says that NTDP beach volleyball is poorly run. There's none of that. It's actually the opposite, complete opposite of the program. It is where it is, and it's going to grow even more because you were leading it. So, like I said before, your leadership, your ability to connect with people and connect people is remarkable. And I am so lucky to be in the front seat of that process, and I take those lessons to myself every single day. And if there was an honor in my life that I wanted to achieve, was to be a part of the national team, and I accomplished that mostly because of you. So I am forever thankful for you, forever grateful for you, not only for the professional stage that I am in my career right now, but for our friendship and everything that we built between us professionally and personally, our families. We're pretty good friends. My wife loves you so much, and loves Gabi as well, your wife. So we really love to be a part of your life, and I am so honored to be in this program with you and share part of my life with you. So thankful. I am so thankful for you. Thank you for everything that you have done for me and my family.
Those are beautiful words, and they're reciprocal. So I appreciate you. I appreciate your friendship, your leadership, and just getting to know you. And Peter, just from like this conversation we had today, the feeling is mutual. I could also sit here and just learn from both of you all night. So I appreciate you guys. I think it's, part of that vulnerability part for me, even to do this and sit here and talk about those things, is like being vulnerable, and that is not easy. But I appreciate you for inviting me and like making me do that, because I feel like it's good. It was a really good conversation, and congratulations to your guys' successes, and can't wait to see you continue to grow.
Thank you. Thank you so much. And we didn't
Thank
say
you.
at the beginning, but we have a partnership, of course, with Nexus Next, which is a company who does processes for Brazilian people just like us that came to the United States. And so if you have a Brazilian friend who wants to come to the United States, tell them to reach out to Lucas Negrin through Nexus Next, through this QR code that stayed in the screen the whole episode, and tell them to reach out to them.
Okay.
All right. So thank
Awesome.
you so much for following us until this point, guys. Share this content with your friend. Make this word to get to as many people as you can. And thank you. Thank you.
Thank you,
Yeah.
guys.
Yeah, guys, remember to go to YouTube, make a comment, like, share with everybody that you know, and as always, come back to check the next one.
All right. Thank you, guys. See you
Thanks,
next
guys.
time.